You're listening to Thoughtful Wellness Revolution with Zara and Hian, where we believe wellness isn't wellness if it's just for you. Today, you're listening to a preview of a bonus episode. Before we get started, remember to give us a 5-star rating and review. Let's get into it.
And so, we just did the main portion, which we may edit out for time because we're trying to keep this to like half an hour, but we went to we're like 50 minutes now. But if you have time and would like to, we can talk about, there are some other things that Zara and I had kind of pinpoint that we could chat about as like a bonus kind of stuff.
Okay.
And one of the things was that I was curious about, because Zara mentioned, was that you had worked or are working in schools and have children that you like mentor, and like I'm really curious to know how you got to do that and what exactly you do there, because that sounds really interesting. I used to teach pre-pandemic. I used to be a high school yoga teacher.
So. Wow. That's cool. Wow. So before I started my business, I worked in the elementary school. And in the elementary school, like I was my personality is a little bit more, it was removed from like working with kids. I never thought I'd work with kids, by the way. Never. Not even close. Like, I don't want to work with no kids. Are you kidding me? They're crazy, right? And I ended up working at this elementary school because of an opportunity that came up, and I was transitioning from this other place that I had outgrown in a lot of different ways. And someone even tried to get me fired because they were jealous, but that's okay. All right. Nevertheless, I ended up working here, and it really changed my heart. It messed me up because like I am doing this Enneagram work, and like I'm learning like,
where is here?
Oh, I'm sorry, Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah.
Memphis, Tennessee. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm doing this work, like Enneagram work, trying to learn. It's like I do need to get closer to my emotions. Just so happened now I work at elementary school. All right. So I'm like, okay, I got to do these things. So I'm like helping these kids out, but I'm not like, my heart's not there necessarily just yet. Like I can connect with a few of them because like they're cool, they're fun, right? The rest of them, I'm like, I don't want to connect with y'all, But after a while, it's just like I made really good connections with a teacher there. It ended up being two different teachers who were fifth grade teachers. And so I would be around the class a lot. I would come in. It's a charter school. So like, you do a little bit of everything in a charter school. I've ran the cafeteria. I've ran like all kind of stuff. So it's certain kids that it's just like a gift and a blessing. Like they're just oriented to you and you oriented to them. And one of my first mentees, his mom came up in the summer because I work year round for the school, and she was like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Stewart, my son love you." He said, "You're an adult, but you're like his friend. You're cool too." And I was like, I didn't know if that was a compliment or an insult. I was like, well, which one? And she was like, "Can he come up here and work with you in the summer? Because he getting on my nerve." And I was like, sure, because this kid was pretty cool. He came up there. It turns out this kid was a self-pres 7 who is exactly the same type that I am. So it makes sense that we vibed.
That's so amazing.
Right? So we vibed. And so he became my first mentee. He was the first one, right? And so, he'd be with me all summer. Like I'd take him places, take him out to eat, help him to see new things that he hasn't seen or explored before. All these type of things, try to teach him how to work, try to teach him, things even with his Enneagram type, and he won't know exactly what I'm talking about, but I can still give the foundation of what they need to be able to do to prepare for life at that stage still.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
My heart, I'm just like, that's
just... So he was the first one. The second one, who gives me the most fits right now, he's just... I love him to death, but he is just, oh my goodness. So he is a self-pres 2. And and it was really kind of like a tragic situation, really. I went to a funeral for a person who was a father figure like in his life because he had rough experience in his father before then. Was unfortunately killed before he was even like able to really know his father. So I went to the funeral and I told his mom, I said, I'll step in, and I'll help watch out for him in his 5th grade year. And like it became like my little buddy. So like now he's my little mentor, and pre-pandemic we would I would work with him like on his homework, like every single Wednesday, check in on him. Like I'm taking him to the house. I put him in different programs because he wasn't doing enough. And really watching out for his whole health, like his mental health, everything, right? So working with him has been, it has helped my heart a whole lot too, but it has really been able to pinpoint some of the things as a two that he has to work on, but deeply learning to love himself, learning to express himself, learning to be okay with himself. All those things I've been working with him on, and it's worked for him and worked for me, especially now that it's like in the pandemic, because I cannot see him physically like I used to, and it's easier when we're like in the space with each other, especially with him and his personality. It's so much easier because I guess it's the vibe of the energy, and Zara can speak to the two energy much better than I can, but it's just a connection. Like when he's with me physically, like we get things done, we accomplish, we knock out work, all these different things, right? Even though he gets really silly. But now I cannot be there and provide that accountability, and he doesn't necessarily have that around him right now, unfortunately. So with him, and then the other one is the other one who is he's a sexual one, and I got in contact with his family through another tragic situation, which is crazy. His stepdad apparently like kind of got shot outside of like where him and his little sister were living, and they kind of saw it, and he was really kind of traumatized by it. So like I took our CIS, community and schools workers, and made sure like he got the resources he needed to mentally do that, made sure like his caretaker had the resources that she needed to make sure he was okay, because it was a whole situation. I don't want to give too much information, right? But I really just kind of stepped in, and he really leaned towards me too in this situation. And so like it was just going through a lot, because he's extremely smart, but he's also has a lot of frustration, and it can come out and it can blame other people for stuff when sometimes it's his fault, but then also he's also going through stuff. So really helping him to really like navigate what he had going on and really be able to like move past some of it, but also deal with some of it as well. So like that was just a really good way of connecting, and he's fiery. Like he's very fiery, and I appreciate it to a certain extent, but I've also had to get on him for doing some things on social media that is like, no, bro, that's a super no. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's been really good, and that's kind of how I got into it. Because I'm a little bit everywhere, and I work with all these different kids, which has been such a blessing to me. Oh my goodness. And I try to be a blessing to the kids too, and I connect really well with them, and especially the young Black boys. It's kind of like having them to understand, like, as a man, as an adult, I can cry and it's okay. I can emote, it's okay. Like I can be fully myself and it's okay. It gives them a model of like, oh, I don't have to be like maybe a bad role model that I have at home or somewhere that's not here. There's another way that I can choose. And so being able for them to do that, and being somebody that they can like have a soundboard off of, that they can see that looks like them, right? Because a lot of times elementary schools aren't filled with Black men, right? Or, every kid needs to see someone who looks like them in their school growing up. They just do.
Absolutely.
It's so important. So being able to be helpful in that way, and then being able to talk directly to them too, as knowing their Enneagram types usually, or at least the center, I can talk directly to their type. So some is more indirect, but some is more direct, and they respect that. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, and I make a connection with them so they feel seen. And so that's rarely what kids feel sometimes. When it's a whole lot of kids, they don't feel seen. And so if they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard and don't feel understood. And so they don't respond really well to the people that they feel like that around. So I try to create that space for them. And I think I've done a pretty good job, made good connections with them and their families. And it's been a huge blessing. And this is a hard time because like I can't go really see them. I can't like because I did a lot of driving around. I go to house, stopping by houses, making sure families are okay, providing resources, things that I know I could do, but this is a hard time. So it's been a little rough in that area. Even makes me a little teary-eyed right now thinking about it, but we're working through it, and I'm trying to check in as best as I can with them. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Thoughtful Wellness Revolution podcast. For the full episode and more bonus content, you can go to thoughtfulwellnessrevolution.substack.com and subscribe for only $5 a month.